So humans, I have been in the hospital for 22 days, and this time I genuinely believed it was going to kill me. But before we get into all that, I would like to address some people's attitudes towards disabled people coming forward with descriptions of medical negligence. I got so many comments on my last video saying that I needed an attitude change and I should stop complaining, all because I said I was treated poorly by a doctor. And that's pretty fucked up. In the past few years, I've had to fight 10 months to get surgery to walk again, 11 months to get a prosthetic that wasn't actively damaging my bone, 10 months unsuccessfully trying to get biofeedback, so to spend a year in contact with an office before I could get surgery is upsetting to me, and I should have every right to complain about that. Because here's the truth. Medical negligence is not rare. It is extremely common, especially for disabled and chronically ill people. And this past 3 weeks in the hospital has really solidified that even more to me. So, after being in contact with this medical office for over a year, and then fighting several months to have surgery, I was finally admitted on January 29th. The surgery was supposed to be to remove some neuromas and to rewire my nerves to deal with my severe and debilitating chronic pain. The actual surgery seemed to go well, although there's no way to know if it actually worked for several months. I thought things were going fine, and then they mixed up my meds. In the time that I've been here, they fucked up my meds over 6 times. And that might not seem like a lot, but each time was traumatizing and caused its own series of issues. The first time was when they mixed up my antidepressants, so I did not get them. So I was left alone and suicidal in the hospital. The first plan was to have my mom here with me because she's my carer and I kind of need her here, especially at a time when I'm on things like ketamine and I have trouble remembering things. But because of COVID, they would not let her in. So I was in a huge rush to get out of the hospital. And after 3 days, I finally talked them into letting me go back to the hotel. I thought, this is fine. I'm not having any, major pain. I'm doing pretty good. The surgery was probably successful. And then the IV pain meds wore off when I was in my hotel. I was there for 2 nights. Each one of them was extremely agonizing. At the end, I was screaming, waking up the neighbors. I couldn't even sit up long enough for the car ride back to the hospital. So we called an ambulance, and I was readmitted through the emergency department because we could not get in contact with any of my doctors. This is another thing that was really fucked up, and has been fucked up the whole time. Even before surgery, we noticed that the phone system at this hospital is basically unusable. If you want to get in contact with anybody, good luck. So I was readmitted after 2 nights, and I'm so grateful that this time we were able to talk them into letting my mother stay, saying that it was extremely vital for my health, which it was and has been, and honestly, I don't know how I would have gotten through this whole mess without her, so I'm very grateful for that. Unfortunately, though, my pain just kept getting worse and worse, even when I was back on IV pain meds, and I was still screaming in pain, and not just a little bit. I'm talking hours and hours on end until the nurses were yelling at me and telling me to shut up. And I couldn't control it. Even my mother agreed that this pain was worse than the pain following my amputation. And that's just such an extreme thing that I never thought I would have to go through again, and here I am going through it again, and we couldn't figure out why. We kept doing MRIs, and they didn't show anything, so eventually it was decided that this pain was not from surgery, it was from surgery aggravating my CRPS. I had never had a flare-up before like this. I didn't know CRPS could get that bad, and that's really saying something considering pretty much all of my life is spent from bed because of CRPS. But we couldn't get my pain to go down. There were times that all I could say was 10 over and over and over and over, because that was my number on the pain scale. Once again, I found myself extremely suicidal this time because of the pain, and that's something that I don't know how to describe, because once you hit a certain level of pain, you think, oh, I'll be able to live through this, but you just can't. Like, I have no words to describe how fucking terrible it was. It was all-consuming, and I didn't know if it was ever going to end. The knowledge that I will likely be in some level of pain for the rest of my life has been devastating, but this new 10 level of pain was just... I literally can't describe it. Like, it was unreal, and I just knew that I couldn't take it anymore. So, I accidentally said during a very bad screaming episode that I wanted to die. I know. Stupid move. Every suicidal person knows not to say that, especially in a fucking hospital. And of course, a nurse heard me. So that began the fight of having to convince the hospital staff that I wasn't suicidal when I very obviously was. I insisted that I had no plans to kill myself, and my only worry was that being discharged would leave me with so few pain meds that I would not be able to cope. Apparently, that was not good enough for them. All they wanted to hear was that I would never, ever, ever kill myself or say I wanted to kill myself, even when I'm in so much pain that I literally have no other options. So, that's fucked up. Like, I understand that it's protocol to, you know, take precautions and stuff when somebody says that they want to die, but it shouldn't be that way. Like, I should be able to choose whether or not I have to live. Like, that is my right as a person, and I have always believed that, and taking away that right is and always has been inhumane. Like, you wouldn't force a dog to suffer in agonizing pain for years on end, and yet that's what people do to disabled people. And, like, obviously we should get a choice, but the lack of any choice is pretty messed up. But anyway, aside from all that, I knew they weren't going to change their minds, so I just told them exactly what they wanted to hear, and yet they still brought it up 4 more times, each time trying to take away things that I needed to cope, things like my cell phone and my heating pad. I know that one time they took away a spoon because they thought I was going to kill myself with a spoon. So each time that happened, I was left traumatized. I felt suicidal, that I just wanted to leave the hospital and end it, but I didn't feel like I was even well enough to go to the nearest tall building and jump off. I felt like I had no choices, and there was no way that I could survive this. I was stuck in a loop like that for over a week. It's the most agonizing thing I've ever gone through, and that's considering all of the other very fucked up things. I was just seeing certain death wherever I looked, but wasn't allowed to give into it or want it. There were periods of time where I was just unresponsive to anything, even to the offer of my scheduled pain meds, because I just did not see the point. Like, either I'm gonna be in pain here, or if I could turn back the clock and not have this surgery, it would still be fucked up because I would just be in pain at my house. Not the same levels of pain, of course, but, like, what is the point when I am in so much pain all of the time, never ending? So, while all of this was happening, I was transferred to the ICU, where they tried many treatments, the most successful of which was some ketamine boluses, which is where you inject a large quantity of ketamine all at one time rather than doing it slowly, which is an infusion. Eventually, my pain was down enough that they were able to transfer me to another hospital, where it was decided that I would undergo a procedure for a nerve stimulator, which is very similar to the spinal stimulator, which I had a few years ago, which was not successful. Basically, what happens is they insert some wires in your muscle close to a nerve and run electricity through it, and the hope is that in some way the electricity decreases the nerve sensitivity or something. I'm not exactly clear on how it works, but it's supposed to be very successful for people with my condition. I didn't want to do it, though, because the spinal stimulator hadn't worked, but we were running out of things to try, so I eventually just agreed to it. In the meantime, and this is the gross part of the video, they had fucked up my meds again. This time my stool softeners, which led to me losing complete control of my bowels for over a week. And let me just say, it's not a fun thing to have your mom wipe your ass at 22 years old. My relationship with my mom is the best thing to have come out of this situation. She sacrificed so much to be here for me, to give me everything I need, making sure that there were minimal mess-ups with my meds by taking notes constantly, keeping me calm through procedure after procedure, like comforting me when I wanted to die, feeding me, like wiping my ass, and I am so thankful that she chose to be here with me, and I love her so much, and I wish she didn't have to take care of me like this, because I want her to be out there, like, enjoying her life, not stuck here taking care of me, but I'm so grateful that that's what she chose. Shortly after I arrived at the new hospital, I had the misfortune of coming across a particularly blunt pain doctor. Things were going well. My pain was down to a 9 at some points, which is a great ways off from a 10, so I was thankful for that, but it wasn't nearly enough to be okay. So this asswipe tells me that it's unreasonable, literally his exact words, to ever expect my pain to go below a 9 or a 10. And obviously you can't say that. That's not okay. And then he also told me that they were planning on discharging me soon with no extra pain meds other than what I had come there with. So let's see, if those pain meds were not working on a pain of a 7, how are they going to work on a pain of a 9? So that's exactly what I told him, and all he said was yes. He didn't offer condolences or explanation or any compromises that we could work with. He just said yes and proceeded to leave the room. So I'm here having extreme mood swings from the ketamine, and I did something I probably should not have done. I screamed "fuck you" at him over and over until he left the room, and I'm not defending that, but I don't know what else I could have done, because I had been pushed and pushed and pushed by all of the constant fuck-ups by the staff, and it just was too fucking much. This guy was the cherry on top of the shit sundae, and I cannot tolerate any of this. Like, it's fucking... Anyway. Later that day, the staff fucked up 2 more times, leaving me completely unresponsive to the point where I couldn't recognize my own mother. I was just so upset. I felt like I had been violated so severely that there were no other options for me, that my life wasn't my own, and there was no escape from this hell. shortly after, my surgeon came in and made me sign a behavioral agreement saying that if I didn't sign, I would be kicked out of the hospital. So obviously I signed it. It said that I would not swear at doctors and I would not say that I was suicidal when I didn't mean it, which obviously I did mean it, but you can't say that. So I signed the agreement. Time went by and my pain managed to get down to an 8 at some points, which is really good, not tolerable, but a lot better than a 9 or a 10, but it still did primarily remain at a 9. Eventually, it came time for the nerve stimulator to be placed, and guess what? There was another fuck up with my meds. The stuff that they had been planning to use to sedate me for the procedure was not available on the floor, meaning I could not have it unless I was readmitted to the ICU, which they did not want to do. So they used something that wasn't as good and it didn't work, leaving me completely awake and alert for the entire procedure, which was very painful. Lots more screaming, lots more trauma, but what more is, like, what is more pain and trauma? Sorry, I'm very out of it. It's just been a very long past month. So that was a few days ago. The stimulator does not seem to be working. Honestly, I don't really think it's going to work, but I guess I will wait and see. My pain is still at a 9 most of the time, and they're planning on discharging me soon. I no longer feel as if I am facing certain death upon discharge, but obviously this isn't a good situation either. Nothing seems to matter anymore. Obviously, I'm glad that I can say more than the word 10 and that I'm not constantly screaming anymore. But I don't really see a point in going home if I'm just gonna keep doing what I've been doing for the past year, which is lay in bed in too much pain to do anything out of bed and too depressed to do anything from bed. Shit's really fucking bad, and honestly, I don't really even want to post this video. I know people are just gonna comment things like, being suicidal is wrong, you should not scream at doctors, what you went through wasn't that bad, you need to stop complaining. You need an attitude change. They're gonna believe that it's not that bad, but also they're gonna believe that it's so bad that I must have faked all of it, as if I'm not literally in a hospital room right now, because that was a big comment that I got on my initial video of me posting that I got my leg amputated, which was that I was faking it while literally being in the hospital. So that's great. People are gonna think that I'm trying to feel special about this experience, when the truth is, again, there's nothing special about it. People go through this type of thing every single day. Primarily disabled and chronically ill people, we are treated as less than human. Like, we are in constant hell sometimes, not just because of our bodies, which is very bad, obviously, also because of the ableism and medical negligence we face. Like, this experience has been made so much worse than it could have been, just by adding emotional trauma onto the physical pain that I've experienced. So, I don't want to hear y'all's ableist bullshit. Mostly, I'm just posting this video because I hope that I live long enough to come upon a day where I am able to process everything that's happened here. And when that day comes, I am going to need this video to remember. Peace.